What's going on? It's JL for the Nick of Time show. Here, giving you that Knicks talk just in the nick of time. I'm joined by my guys, the Latin assassin, the Escobedo. What's going on? And my man Ryan G in the building. We here to talk, man. We here to talk about some Knicks stuff. But I really want to touch on Donte Divencenzo. We really haven't addressed him yet since he's officially been signed to the New York Knicks and the kind of ripple effects that happens once Dante has been signed to the Knicks. So let's get to it, man, and talk about Dante. And first thing I'll say is Golden State Warrior fans are really sad, you know? So if one fan base is really sad, somebody is leaving. It's usually a good sign. So I'll start right. I'll start with it. I'll start there. And listen, the Knicks signed Dante to a 4-year deal. Mid-level exception. First year is 10.9, second year is 11.4, third year is 12 million, fourth year is 12.5. There is no Scott Perry special where the last year isn't guaranteed. It's straight up 4 years for Donte Divencenzo joined the New York Knicks. Lee, so let's start off with you, man. How do you feel about Dante joining the Knicks?
It's tough to not view this pickup and not think about Obi Toppin's departure and the terrible trade that left on all of us Knicks fans. But looking at him as a cog in the offensive system, I think it'd be similar to what Sacramento did when they loaded up and surrounded De'Aaron Fox with Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter. They added other guys who can do a combination of playmate, three-point shoot, rebound, play defense, all at above average levels. I think Donte Divencenzo is of the same ilk. He's coming from a winning system over in Golden State. He was a cog playing alongside Steph Curry, even doing some on-ball handling at times, depending on who he was matched up against. So I think those are all pluses for the offensive side of the ball, which I think was more stagnated than our defense last year. I think our offense was highly dependent on offensive rebounds and second chance points, as well as executing really well and efficiently in isolation sets. But we weren't a team that moved the ball a lot. We weren't a team that got a lot of really good open looks, especially in the mid-range. I think Donte Divincenzo can add and help in those areas, but he's not the big stretch wing I was hoping that we were going to get and use that mid-level exception for. But I think he's a good addition. I don't know how impactful he will be next season with the minutes distribution and the hierarchy already in place.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like those big stretch wings we've been looking for. The reason it's been hard to get those, I feel like once you get over 6'4", price tag goes up for defensive wings. I think that's really what's happening. Like the guys like the OG Wananobis and these type of guys, they're not going to be going for the mid-level exceptions. It seems like for the most part. Maybe lower level, maybe Torian Prince. Maybe that's somebody I felt like maybe we could have gone after, but that's a whole other story. But I like the addition of Dante myself. I definitely was worried about rotations, but we'll get to that later. But I like what he brings. He brings you 3-point shooting 39% from three. He's in like the 90th percentile in steal rate. We're a team who doesn't really produce a lot of steals, and he does that at a high clip. He used to playing with Coach Bud. He played with Bucks one year where they had like a read and react offense. So coming here with Tom Thibodeau reading that offense, I feel like he'll fit in because he's unselfish. He'll pass the ball. He can ball handle like Lee said earlier. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a lot of times where if one person went down, you saw in the playoffs, one person went down, ball handling was tough, was very tough. And he's a guy where with the ball in his hands, you can feel secure that he's not going to do anything stupid, very high IQ. And he can finish too, man. He for a guy his size, he finishes at the rim with ferocity. It's funny, I was looking at clean glass stats, and he's at the 47th percentile, which is low. But then you look and he's shooting 63% from the rim, which seems kind of high, but maybe it's because they categorize him as a wing and less as a like shooting guard, point guard, because it doesn't seem like he has trouble finishing, especially with the eye test. So it's interesting. I like we have a guy who can shoot from three, can kind of finish, and is unselfish and can D people up on a team defensive level. So I like the addition. So I didn't mean to take. I actually meant to pass the ball to Ryan before I submit to my list of Luffy. But what do you think, Ryan?
Um, I think overall it's a positive addition. It's definitely an addition that will help the team, I believe. Of course, size is going to still be an issue for the Knicks because at the moment the Knicks are a small team. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare against teams with bigger wings. But overall, he's a good signing. One of the issues with the Knicks last year was shooting and spacing
Yeah,
the floor. Dante Divencenzo, he's definitely going to help with that. And also, I think the fact that like you said, JL, is he's definitely a high IQ player. He's not a player that's going to make a lot of mistakes. He's going to make the right play more often than not. And I think one thing I also like about him is the fact that I think on the majority of his drives to the basket, from what I've seen and heard, he's the type of guy where, if he drives to the basket and he sees that he draws a defender or two, like he is the type of guy who's going to find a wide open shooter as well. So, I think he also can help from that standpoint as well. And I think overall, I think based on, with adding DiVincenzo and what the Knicks are trying to do, I think the Knicks are trying to basically space the floor more. I
yeah.
guess, yeah, to make Brunson and Randall have more space to operate, especially in their isolation sets, which is what I'm thinking that the Knicks are aiming for with the addition of Dante. But overall, it's a good signing.
Yeah, I could see like him and quickly really building something too. I feel like there was a time where it was a quickly and roll show and having those two ball handlers on at the same time caused havoc for opposing second units. I can see something similar with DiVincenzo and quickly happening, depending on what happens with quickly. But I definitely, I like what I see, which kind of brings me to a situation when it comes to the minutes. At first I was very, very unsure about this move because I'm like, where are these backup minutes coming from? You know what I mean? Like for me, when I was looking at this, I'm thinking if Dante is here, that means somebody is on its way out. And now it seems to be that maybe the Knicks are just saying, you know what, screw it. We're willing to play small.
Yeah.
Um, which I have mixed feelings about. I don't like playing small in general. I like playing, but I know this is new NBA positionless basketball, yada yada yada. But sometimes defensively, that can get in the way. But what do you think of the opportunity, the Knicks, thinking of having RJ play at the power or Josh Hart play at the power?
I think to be honest, I would prefer like Jail's like I would prefer having somebody who's a bit bigger, to play the power forward. Like I'm not really that sold on either RJ or Josh Hart playing a backup four, but I do think, especially with RJ, there might be advantages with them playing the backup four because I feel like those type of matchups, at least from the offensive side of the ball, RJ can easily take those guys off the dribble and get to the basket and create. As opposed to him going up against like, guys who are like more his size and can probably keep up with his quickness and things of that nature. So I think from that, it's kind of like when Melo came to the Knicks and the Knicks had Melo at the four, how Melo was able to take advantage of those opportunities offensively. I think it could be a bit similar for RJ Barrett, just from a different perspective when it comes to like driving to the basket and getting into the lane and things of that nature. So I think offensively there's advantages, but of course defensively, and I think even defensively, I think RJ Barrett could probably keep up more. He could probably keep up more with like slower fours than opposed to like faster threes or faster wings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would still rather somebody with more size, but I think the Knicks can make it work though with RJ playing backup 4 minutes. I think they can make it work.
I personally don't like it at all. I would go as far as say I hate it just because the starting RJ is not even bid for a three. So if RJ was like if he's a Paul George type three, and you're moving Paul George to the four, and he's bringing a lot of guard steals along with him, where you can play some point forward and the offense can be ran through him, RJ's not there yet. I don't even know if he'll ever be there, and his bodies will probably never be there either. So it makes me pessimistic. They could work, especially considering that Mitchell Robinson isn't really great as a passer either. So it makes for a lot of awkward fits up front. And you're really depending on Mitch to anchor the defense and clean up a lot of guard mistakes and a lot of blow-bys on a defensive end for those smaller guards when they're matching up against bigger guys driving to the paint. I don't like it. RJ's not the best shooter either. So having him at the four isn't a whole lot of shot making from the perimeter. You're really going to depend on RJ to get to the bucket and hit his mid-range shots because his three-point shot is so shaky. So it adds more issues, I think, than it does solve problems. We still need to add some length or add some offensive playmaking at the center position to really balance this roster out.
Yeah, I'm with Hughley in when Carmelo Anthony could shoot. So when Carmelo was playing the four, you know, if the four didn't want to press up on him, he just shoot the three or shoot that mid range. RJ, he's showing signs, but he's still, I can't say that man can hit an open jump shot consistently yet to be like, all right, he can really take advantage of the mismatches there. Because what's going to happen is people will just lay off and stay in the paint. You know what I'm saying? Like, and force him to do that to kind of take it through the paint. And that's not. So I do agree. I mean, on the other side though, if RJ, I'm more comfortable with Josh Hart playing the four than RJ playing the four though. At the same time, Lee, it would be more Hartenstein at the five. So I'm in that scenario because Randall's still here, so there might be like spot minutes at the four where it's weird where he's playing with Mitch, but most likely it's going to be for the most part Hartenstein. So in that case, Hartenstein can kind of play that playmaking center and guys can cut off. You know what I'm saying? So that can work in our favor anyway, at least for the majority of the bench minutes. Now, when they start subbing people back in, whole different story. But
yeah,
I agree with you, man. Like I'm not in love with the small ball lineup. And maybe the Knicks are thinking the same thing, which is why secretly, well, not really secretly, but in the April, with like a game left in the regular season, maybe the Knicks were kind of foreseeing something happening with Obi Toppin because they went and signed Isaiah Roby from the Spurs. And Isaiah actually came from OKC, was showing a little bit of promise in OKC, but you know how OKC is. OKC are the opposite of the Knicks, where they just load up on all sorts of draft picks every year, 4 or 5, 6 draft picks, 4 or 5, 6 draft picks. And what's happening with them is because they keep collecting 4 or 5, 6 draft picks every year, they just start cutting people. And Isaiah Roby is one of those guys who they cut just because this young talent just keeps coming in. So I don't know if what do you guys think of an Isaiah Roby pickup? And this is the stats from last year. The stats from OKC were a little bit better, but these are the stats from the Spurs.
mediocre. Very, very mediocre. I'm not going to go as far as say he's a bum because he's a young kid trying to make a roster, and he hasn't been given the opportunities, I think, to be really critical of his play. But based on the reports out of Summer League and him getting cut by 2 very serious organizations that take development very seriously in OKC and San Antonio, him not making either of those 2 rosters or not given a second chance is very telling. I don't think he's going to be able to make up not just Obi Toppin's production in those spot minutes, but also the energy that Obi Toppin brings. Obi Toppin and Emmanuel quickly brought us a different kind of energy, a whole new wave to that second unit when they subbed in. I don't see Isaiah Roby doing that. Instead, I think the opposition's gonna be like, oh, that's barbecue chicken over there. Let me go get some ISO sets. Let me back this guy in. Let me attack this guy off the dribble and rack up fouls and put him in foul trouble. I think that's what's going to end up happening. I don't think Roby will probably even be on this team in midway through the season. This is a situation we need to address by free agency or a trade. Is getting a real replacement for Obi, someone who can hit the 3 with consistency, who can defend at a medium to high level for the in his opposition going up against bench guys. Roby's not it. Right now he's just a Band-Aid.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Ryan, before I talk.
Yeah, I do want to make a kind of an amendment to what I said earlier because the way I was thinking about it was like I was thinking about it in certain sets where you have the other three guys in the perimeter that are shooters, but then I forgot Josh Hart is on that second unit as well. So I'm like, now when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, you need one or two of those guys to actually be able to knock down the three consistently for that to work with RJ at the four. They would definitely have to like mix and match and have probably Brunson in the backcourt like IQ and DiVincenzo to kind of like make that work a little bit. But now that I think about it, I'm more towards your guys thinking guys to it really working with RJ at the four. Now that I kind of like revised my thought process on it, but yeah, in reference to Roby, I think it's hopeful thinking to believe that he can actually replace Obi Toppin and the production that Obi Top actually gave. There is a reason why this player has bounced around, during the short time in the NBA. And I mean, maybe you could play spot minutes, probably give you maybe a few minutes off the bench, to guard bigger guys. But besides that, like, I don't think he's going to really make that much of an impact this season. And, it's definitely a problem that the Knicks do need to address in the future in getting a wing that can actually, like, shoot the ball, defend, and things of that nature. I think this is pretty much like a band-aid almost. Like, we lost Obi, so we just need somebody with size, who can possibly defend, and we just gonna put a band-aid over it for now until we can actually fix the problem in the future.
The thing with Roby is there was a time when he was in OKC where he was a 98th percentile 3-point shooter, shot 46% from three that year. And did pretty well at the rim. He was playing center there though. So I'm not sure if it's one of those situations where he's playing center, he has more time to shoot and relax and hit those shots. But he seemed like he was turning a corner that year before he was traded to the Spurs. And also, you were right. Like defensively, he's a little bit slow, but he is long. He has a 7'3" wingspan. He has active hands. So I see why the Knicks tried to do something with him, but I don't know. This is one of those low risk things. I'm not sure how this is going to really pan out. It was rumored that the Knicks are giving him a chance to actually be the primary backup power forward. So one game in summer league wasn't the best, wasn't the best. But it's summer league. You're playing other players who are also kind of raw. Sometimes when you are a role player, you need other players around you to actually play well for you to play well. Otherwise, it's a little bit of chaos. So it could be contributed to that. But all in all, we'll see. We'll see. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. If Isaiah Roby actually does play, does that mean less minutes for IQ, less minutes for Dante? If Isaiah actually gets that power forward spot, or like how does that play out with the domino effect that's happening with the Knicks? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Tibbs has kept a really tight 9-man rotation. So adding Roby would make it a 10-man rotation. So there has to be an odd man out. I think he's just going to settle with, his new favorite toy, Josh Hart, playing power forward minutes. I just feel like that's going to end up being the solution here, which is another one I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. It could be that. Like there was a time when he was doing Sims and Hartenstein together. Like they was doing that right as well. So I don't know what's going to happen with Tibbs, where he sees this going, but we will see. End of the day, though, I do like the addition of Dante in general. Didn't really play well in the playoffs though, so that was his first playoffs that he ever played in. When he was with the Golden State Warriors, but hopefully he turns the corner and he plays well for us, man. So yeah. But that is our show. Thank you guys for rocking with us and talking Knicks. And yeah, we'll be back talking Knicks. Please hit that like button and subscribe button. That's our show. We out here. Preach.
Peace.